Today, I'm going to show you how to create these holiday potions and ingredients that are inspired by the wizarding world. So today's video is a collaboration between Ashley from Cosplay Costume and myself. Ashley had the idea and brought it to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely on board. Wanted to use some of the bottles you can get at Target, as well as some of the items you can find at the Dollar Tree. And she asked if I would design the labels, and then we can each show our interpretations of the bottles and bring some holiday fun for you guys. The things we'll need to create our holiday bottles are some bottles, and these are little holiday collections of potion bottles that Target released this year. They were in the Bullseye Playground or Dollar Spot, whatever you want to call it, and they were $3 for the set of 3 bottles, and they already have these really nice fillings inside of them, and they have labels that are decent, but I felt like we could step up their game some. And I'm also going to upgrade some of the items in the bottles. Some of them I'm going to leave exactly the same, but we're going to start with these as a basis. Then I have an assortment of other little bottles here. Some are from the Dollar Tree, some are from Hobby Lobby, some I've just collected over time. Just whatever bottle I felt fit the need for what I was going to fill in it is what I grabbed. We're also going to use an assortment of jute twines and cording. I think I'm going to be using this light up cork for one of them. We're going to use some hot glue guns and some sealing wax, or colored hot glue sticks. I've got an assortment of other items that truthfully most of it I had laying around. So it may be things like berries and glitter and sand, you name it. We'll go through it as we go through each bottle, but I have a bunch of stuff that most of it I had laying around. There were only a few things I actually purchased, and I'll go over those in each individual bottle. We are going to use some rubbing alcohol for one potion and some mica powder or acrylic paint. And finally, we will need our labels printed on sticker paper, and the link for this is in the description down below. Let's get started. Would you like a chance to win a prop potion bottle from me? Then consider supporting me over on Patreon. All of my patrons have a chance to win a potion bottle every month. Link is in the description down below. The first thing I'm going to do with all of these is remove their old labels and get them prepped for how we're going to update and change them. And just so you guys know, the easiest way that I have found to remove labels, sometimes you'll get an edge, but it almost always rips off like that, is to take one of these scrapers. It's actually for a Cricut, and this was the one from the Dollar Tree that's like the Cricut dupe. But I find that these work really well to remove unwanted labels. And all I do is just kind of do a pushing, scraping motion around the edges, and then continue that through the center until the label is completely off. And then once your label is off, you're left with usually some residue, like this one. And then we just take a paper towel with some rubbing alcohol. And it will clean the adhesive up super fast. And then we're left with clean bottles. And now that all of our jars are labelless and clean and ready to go, we are now able to transform them. The first jar we're going to transform is the coal jar. And I have decided that it is going to become a Weasley Wizard Wheezes product. And this is going to be not so nice. Enchanted lumps of coal, guaranteed to help you create mischief. Be naughty, it's more fun. So I just thought this would be something that Fred and George would definitely have in their shop and definitely still fits the season. So we're going to add that on here. Now I could leave the insides just the way they are, but I actually think I want to add a little bit of an element of coal, which is dirty. So I'm going to add a little bit of this activated carbon in there that we used for phoenix ashes and all kinds of stuff. Now, they do have these corks kind of glued on. And when I say kind of, I just mean it's literally just a little bit of hot glue. So if you wiggle it a little bit, it comes right out. And then you can peel the hot glue right off of the cork so that it won't, be noticeable. So I'm going to just add a little bit of this activated carbon in here. Okay, and we're going to see if that's enough to get the effect I want. So I'm going to recork this, and then I'm going to shake it up, trying to mix my plastic coal pieces with the activated carbon. And yeah, it's kind of doing the trick because I wanted it to get rid of some of the shininess and add a little bit of a dirt aspect up here. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to finish this. Okay, so now that I have our activated charcoal mixed with the coal that came in the bottle, It now just feels, I don't know, a little less shiny, which I think to me makes it feel a little bit more coal-like. So on our label, just like any other time I do any labels like this, I have gone around the outside edge with a matching marker. So in this case, I am using a green. And now I can go ahead and stick this on. And I'm going to take some of this green cording and add just a little bit to the neck of the bottle to just make it feel a little bit more finished. So I'm going to wrap this one like I have hundreds of other bottles in the past. And that is by taking our string or cording, and we're going to make a U and capture the U. And once we get a couple sweeps, pull that bottom up, push the whole thing down, and then just continue to wrap until we are at the top of the bottle. Cut our end here. We're going to stick this through the U we had. And then we're going to pull up on that one and down on this bottom cord. And that just kind of tightens everything up. And then we're going to pull the bottom one to bring the top one behind all of our cording, and in essence locking it in place without glue. Trim that flush. Trim this one flush. And we have our wrapped bottle without needing any glue or really any knotting. So it looks the same on the back as it does on the front. And there we have our not so nice Weasley Wizard Wheezes product. The next one I'm going to just add the label to is this one, which I believe was Santa's List, and we are actually going to make this letters to Santa, and I gave it a little bit of an owl post vibe on the actual label. So for this one, I'm literally just going to stick it on the bottle. And we're just going to stick this on here. And I didn't want to add cording up here because I feel like it just kind of loses the actual little message emphasis on there. But I do think for this one, I may add some wax seal drips on here. Okay, so I am going to take some of my red sealing wax and a hot glue gun here. And we are going to add some red wax strips around the bottle here. Okay, and I actually like how this is very organic, just looks like it was quickly sealed, similar to the way owl post can seem. Like it's just a quick hit and it's done. And I think that's good. So now we have our letters to Santa. The next bottle we're going to transform is Hogwarts Tree cuttings. And this one I'm basically going to leave the inside exactly the way it is. And we're just going to add our new label. Okay, so now that we have our label on here. And again, I love the organic drips we get with the sealing wax. So there's our Hogwarts tree cuttings. Okay, so for this next one, it was Santa's hat. And I changed it to Santa's port key, which I think is very appropriate. And again, these corks are just kind of glued in, but not really. But I don't love the like white crinkle paper at the bottom of this one. So we're going to carefully pull the little hats out. And then I'm going to pull all this paper stuffing out of here. So I think I would rather these just be sitting in there without that paper. I feel like it kind of lessened the little hats and just made them look a little cheaper than they are. So yeah, I think I prefer just the little hats hanging out in the bottom of the jar like that. So we'll get our label on here. So we've got our little Santa's Portkey label, and then when you spin it around, we've got the little hats. So I want to add a little bit of cording to this one, so I think I'm going to just go with a brown. And now we have our little Santa's Portkey with the hats. So this next one is going to be Christmas Lumos. We thought this would be a really good one to just have a little bit of the lights in there. Now I will say I don't love the lights that are included in the Christmas lights jar from Target. They are pretty, they're fine, but I feel like it should light up. So we're going to pull everything out of this one. Again, it's got the red paper, which I just feel like cheapens the whole thing. So we'll get rid of that. And then, see, once you get rid of that, you literally are left with 3 little bulbs. Which is fine, but, you know, I want mine to light up. So I found these see-through light bulbs at Hobby Lobby, and I think they were 60% off or more. So super affordable. But what we're going to do is use these, and then I also think I'm going to use this light-up cork. Now, the problem with this light-up cork is it sticks up a decent amount. So we'll see whether that bugs me or not. We are going to do a faux finish to the cork to make it look more like a cork. So let's start messing with this bottle. With this light-up cork, the only problem is it sticks up about this far. But I kind of feel like I might be able to hide some of that by bringing the cording up over the lip here. And I do really think that adding the little bit of light in here with our lights is going to add a nice touch. So I'm going to load this up with the lights and the string lights in here. I'm going to kind of separate these out a little bit, and we're going to see if that cork bothers us. If it does, you could always sit this bottle on top of something that has a light, like we made our book that had the little light hidden in it, so that you can actually set a bottle on top of it and you don't have to actually have light in the bottle, which that's another option as well. But for this one, I just kind of wanted to see how this would go. So I've got that strung in there. We're going to add our light bulbs in. And I just loved that these were see-through. I feel like they feel more bulby. And even if we don't decide to have the lights in here, they're already going to feel more light-like just because they are going to be transparent. I might be able to get away with just one pack here, especially since the cork goes down a little further. Okay, so let's light this up. And let's see how... Yeah, I don't know that that's actually adding anything for me. So I think we're going to nix this light up cork. It is cool that it lights them up, but the way the cork sticks out and sticks in the jar just isn't appealing to me. So I think we'll just leave them with the translucent lights. And I may add just a few more in there since we're not going to have that cork. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. We'll get our cork back on here, which I'll take any excess glue off of quick. Okay. And these little guys we'll just save for something else. And we're going to add our label here. Okay, I think that looks pretty straight. We'll rub that down. And for our Christmas Lumos, I think I want to add some cording. After it was sitting amongst the other ones, it just looked like it needed some cording. So I have this red satin cording we're just gonna go ahead and add. Yeah, I feel like that just makes that one look a little bit better. And we've got our Christmas Lumos. The next one was, I think these were cookies for Santa, but we have decided to make them Mrs. Weasley's Enchanted Cookies, which I wanted to make sure I added the burrow down here. So much cuter than just cookies for Santa. So we're going to put this label on. So now that we've got our label on there, for this one, because it's Mrs. Weasley's Cookies, I felt like adding a little square of fabric to the top might actually make it feel a little more homemade. So I'm going to use this cording that's got some gold woven through it. And I think we're just going to try to tie this around here. So I'm going to first just get a loop, so I can almost like lasso it on to the fabric. Before I knot that, I want to get everything into place so that if I need to adjust anything on this fabric, I can do that before I cinch it tight. And I think I like that this just kind of feels simple and homemade and like something that Mrs. Weasley would send to one of her kids or to Harry. So we have Mrs. Weasley's Enchanted Cookies. Now we have our Snowballs, and we're transforming this one into no melt snowballs. So wanted to create just a simple little tag for this one. It's got a little silhouette of Hogwarts in the background, like this is a snowball fight happening on the grounds. Similar to what Fred and George did with Professor Quirrell when it was actually Voldemort behind the turban that they were hitting with the snowballs. Okay, I think that looks good. So for this one, we're going to use some black cording. And now we have our no melt snowballs. The next bottle was Reindeer Treats, and it's got these cute little fake carrots in here, but I decided to make the label Reindeer Rocket Fuel. So you could definitely keep the carrots if you wanted to, but I really wanted to make it more of what I always envisioned reindeer food or fuel to look like. So, you know, the agent that would help them fly. So we're first going to get these carrots out of here. These actually would be cute for a fake little snowman, so I'm going to keep a hold of those. So for mine, I think I'm going to add a little bit of moss to the bottom, and funnily enough, the moss I want to add to the bottom is called reindeer moss. So this kind of moss here is actually reindeer moss, and it's one of my favorite types of moss. I love the texture it has, how spongy it is. It's just super versatile, and I've used it in a lot of different projects. We did it in the bottom of our Dead Man's Toe box, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to put some of that in the bottom because I feel like, you know, they might want to eat some moss. And then I got this really chunky glitter that's almost like little rocks, but I feel like it just looks like magic feet or something like that. So we're going to pour that in on top of the moss, and that's going to be like our reindeer feed. Okay, that way we've got our little bit of moss at the bottom and our glitzy feed on the top here. And I might add one more little tuft of moss on top of it even. Yeah, I think I like that. We're going to recap this up. Let's add our label. I think that looks pretty straight. And then I'm going to use our brown cording again. And once we have our cording on here, we have our reindeer rocket fuel. The next bottle we have is the one that was presents, and I have made it instant presents, which requires the Ingrosio charm. Okay, we're going to get this lined up here. So we've got our instant presents, and on the top of this one, I'm going to use some cording that has a little bit of silver tinsel through it. So we're going to wrap the neck of the bottle. And then because this is instant presents, I wanted to add a little gift bow design to it. So I have shown this ribbon before. It's some of my favorite. It's actually an instant pull bow ribbon. And I'll try to put a link in the description to it. But you basically just cut the length that you want. And it has these little strings on the inside. And you take the two ends. And then you just pull. And it creates an instant bow. And I have this in a couple different colors, but the silver I thought with the silver tinsel string would be perfect. So now we can just knot this. And you can refluff anything you feel like you need to. And then we have this cute little gift bow that we can add to our bottle here. And then we've got our little instant gift bow here. That I think just makes a perfect addition to our little instant presents. The next bottle we're going to do is Christmas memories. So for this one I was thinking of like memories from the Ponsieve. So I decided to design the label to look similar to the labels that are on like Dumbledore's memories in his cabinet. So then that way it would give us that similar feel. And we're going to take this bottle a little bit further. I'm going to add a little bit of snow to the top of it. So we're going to use some white glitter for that. But first we're going to go ahead and fill this up. So for that I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol. You could also use water and just a tiny, 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 tiny drop of glycerin. And all of you are going to ask, why don't you just use regular water? And it's because it gets yucky over time. The reason we're using the alcohol is to keep it from getting gross. And I assure you, the water over time will get gross. So for this one, we're going to use just a little bit of a white mica powder. But you could also use a water-based acrylic metallic paint like we did for Snape's Memories a couple years ago. So I'll put a card up above to that in case you want to see how that was done. And anytime I do an alcohol-based potion, I like to use these rubber corks. This is a white set of the rubber corks that I picked up, and this is a 00 that fits in this little vial. So let's shake this up. And we get this really beautiful, I don't know if you guys are even going to be able to see how pretty it is. So when that settles, it'll go back to clear, and then when you shake it up, it'll look like the memories being reshaken. So now that we've got our mica powder in there, we're going to go ahead and apply our label. And I had my Cricut cut this one out. If you decide to cut this out yourself, I would just say go around the outside edge here instead of trying to get all these little spaces and stuff. Obviously, my Cricut can do it. There's no way I could cut that by hand. I could cut the outside edge, but not those little inside details. And I just did the print and cut method with mine when I go to do it, so it worked out really well. So even if you do this on the Cricut, be very careful that you don't rip any of your little snowflake arms off while you're peeling the backing paper. Okay, then we've got our little Christmas memories design on there. And then, like I said, we're going to take this one step further. So I've got some Mod Podge and a paintbrush here. So I'm just going to add some to the top ledge here, part of this edge. I'm going to add some here, like it rested. I can do the whole top. And this is a brush I killed a long time ago with Mod Podge because I didn't rinse it quick enough. So it's a little stiff, but it still gets the job done. Okay, so once we just get a little layer on there, we're going to take our extra fine white glitter, or you could even use a clear glitter. And we're just going to dust this on. So since that Mod Podge dries clear, we'll just be left with our little icy, snowy effect. Tap off any of the excess. Give it a good little blow if you need to. And then we're going to let that dry. But as you can see, it gives us just a cute little frosty, icy effect, which I just think adds to the Christmas memories vibe on this one. The next bottle I'm going to do is Santa's Flue Powder. So I thought it would be really fun to use this jar that I found at Hobby Lobby that has a hanger attached to it, because I was like, well, Santa could just hang that off of his belt and he's got his flue powder ready to go. Or if you wanted, you could hang this on your Christmas tree. So I just thought this would be the perfect container for this. So we're going to create our flue powder similar to the way we did in our flue powder video, except I'm not using the one with the borax powder that you can actually get a green flame with some ethyl alcohol. We're going to do the prop version that had the green sand. So we're going to take some regular sand. Pour that in. And obviously you could get green sand in like the sand art aisle of a craft store, but I already had the plain sand on hand. And then we're going to use some green food coloring. You can use gel or regular, it really doesn't matter. We're going to start with just a couple drops. And then we're going to take a cooking skewer or whatever you want to stir this up with. And we're just going to start to stir our sand. And then you can always add more if you want to darken the color. I think I'm just going to add 2 more drops and that should be good. Okay, so I feel like we have a good green color now. I'm going to add some green glitter. This is optional, but I just think it adds a little magic to it, and it's Christmas flue powder for Santa, so a little bit of glitter is a good thing. And once we get that all mixed in, we get a really nice glittery flue powder. And I'm going to use a piping bag here to kind of act like a funnel for us in my jar. So I'm just going to cut the bottom off here. And we're going to preload this into our bottle. We'll get it in here, make sure it's all good and open, so our sand can get in there. And then that way I can just dump my sand right in. So as you can see, we have plenty of flue powder for a whole nother bottle if we wanted. So I'm going to cork that up. And we're going to add our little Santa's Flue powder label. Bottle's kind of a funky shape, so I'm going to just use my nails to push the little creases out and stick everything down really good. All right, we've got our little label on here now. I'm going to pull this up because I want to add a little bit of gray cording just underneath the strap. Okay, so we've got our little wrapping on here, and now we have Santa's Flue powder. The next bottle we're going to do is Yule Ball Icicles. So I had this label cut out similar to my little Yule Ball invitation, so it's got the same iconic shape. And I found this blue bottle at the Dollar Tree. I actually think it was part of a fall collection or something because it had a little gold leaf hanging on it, but I just cut that part off. So for this one, I want to put some fake snow in the bottom of it. Just a tiny bit. So I'm going to take my fake snow, and I love this fake snow. It's such a realistic looking fake snow. It's the same fake snow we used in some of our winter apothecary jars last year. And it's just awesome. So we're just going to put a tiny bit in there. And it's the kind of snow that you would use for like a Christmas village. I think they call it the Snow Flurries bag here. But yeah, I just want a tiny bit in there. And then I found these really great glass icicle ornaments, and I love putting glass icicle ornaments on my Christmas tree anyway. So I found these. It was a mixed batch of half small ones like this and half larger ones. So I just took 5 of them, of the smaller ones here, and I cut the string off. And we're gonna just put these in. I'm gonna put some face down, some face up. Okay, so we've got our little icicles in there from the Yule Ball. And we can put our lid on here. And then we're going to put our label on. And I think to finish this one off, we're going to use some white sealing wax hot glue. And then we have our Ministry of Magic seal up here and the little drips that happened while we were doing the seal. And there we have our Yule Ball icicles. So while I have the fake snow out, we're going to do Ever Falling Snow. So this one's going to be super easy. We're basically just going to fill this with some of the fake snow. And we're going to put our label on there. And I think I want to add a little bit of this blue satin cording around the top. And once our cording is on, we have our Ever Falling Snow. The next jar we're going to do is holly berries to repel evil. So for this one, I've got some silk holly leaves here, which I actually think I kind of want to put in the bottom. And then I have some red berries here that we are going to add in there to be our holly berries. So we're going to add our label onto our holly berries. This bottle is from the Dollar Tree. It actually had seashells in it, but I thought it was a great size bottle, so we emptied it out. And I think our holly berries is good. I want to keep this one simple. The next jar we're going to do is mistletoe. And I decided for this one that I was going to use the same mistletoe berries that I used when we made our mistletoe berries potion in our winter potion collection. So they're these beautiful frosted berries that just have this awesome icy effect that just adds a whole lot to these. So I'm going to put these in. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to cap this up. And then for this one, I made a tag. So this is basically just the smaller version of the tag that I made for our winter apothecary jars last year. So I'm going to take the backing paper off. But before I fully take that off, I'm going to fold this in half, or at least get the crease ready. There we go. Just so then that way when I take the rest of the backing paper off, it will already know where to go. Okay, so once we stick both sides together, we have our little tag. So now, at this point, it's really important to take a matching marker and just go around the outside edge to mask any area where we have a little bit of white space. So for this one, I'm going to use some of this lighter, thin jute twine. And we're basically just going to take a section, and I'm going to find the middle here. And we're going to poke this through the little hole on our tag here. Fully cinch that tight. And you may have to help this a little bit. There we go. So then we have our little mistletoe tag here. And I'm going to go around this twice, and then I'm just going to knot this underneath that. And then we have our little mistletoe jar. The last jar we're going to do is our self-building snowman. So I thought it would be fun for this one. Obviously, I could have put just like a miniature snowman ornament in there or anything like that. But I thought it would be really fun to just kind of put the components of a snowman in there. So I put a little bit of our fake snow when I cleaned up my work area when we were putting in stuff for the ever falling snow. I just took the extra little bits and put them in the bottom here. And again, I'm doing this with things I have laying around. I tried not to purchase a bunch of stuff for these. I wanted to just kind of use up some stuff that's in my stores. So for this one, I have these pearls, and I have 3 different sizes, and I just thought this would be super fun to be the 3 balls of the snowman. Whoop. And I want to try to put the hole facing down if I can. There we go. And then we're going to put the next size in, and then the one that would be the head. And then I thought this could be a nose. It's just a bit of some branching that I had that looks like a little pointed nose. So I added that to the jar. And then I have our 2 little arm sticks. So I thought I would just kind of place those in the jar as well. So then that way it would be a self-building snowman. Now I could have added a hat and scarf and things like that, but I actually think just the base snowman in here is kind of fun. And then the other items would have been added, you know, when it was being built. So we're going to add our label on here. And then we have our little snowman components back here. And there we have it, our little self-building snowman jar. And with that, we have our 16 holiday potion bottles or potion ingredients or whatever you'd like to call them. But I just think these are so special and so fun. And I'm glad that Ashley from Create Craft Costume reached out to me to have us both do these. So hopefully you guys will find a fun way to use some of these labels and some crafts for this holiday. Maybe you make some of these as a gift for someone, or maybe just as part of your decor in your house. So if you guys like this video, give me the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.